Hey, welcome back, amigos. I hope you're doing well. Ready for another cheeky episode? This week, we're going to be doing ourselves a delicious lemon meringue pie. So I'm going to show you how to make that beautiful sweet pastry. Instead of doing a lemon curd to go in there, I'm going to show you how to bake the lemon custard very gently and slowly until set. And then we're going to make that beautiful meringue, and we're just going to quickly blowtorch it to give it that beautiful brown crust on top. So hope you guys are going to enjoy it. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn the oven on, ready for that beautiful pastry. But before we're going to do the pastry, we're actually going to do the custard mix. But let's get that oven on. So we want the oven on 350 Fahrenheit or 180 Celsius. So let's turn that on now. So you're going to be asking yourselves, why are we doing the lemon custard first? Now the reason for this is because we need to let it rest, as once we've mixed up the mix, it will actually start to froth up slightly, and we want to get rid of that froth so we get a nice pristine tart. So we're going to need, So we're going to need 6 cheeky eggs in here. So let's crack on with these. Almost lost my cheeky eggs. So in addition to the eggs, we're going to need 355 ml of cream. Also, we're going to need 155 grams of caster sugar or fine granulated sugar. In addition, we're also going to need 2.5 lemons. So if you want it in measurements, you want about 260 ml of lemon juice. So we're going to give that a nice little squeeze there. Obviously, using my sieve as well. So 260 ml is what we want. Did I say 250? I think I meant 150 ml of lemon juice. So 2.5 lemons. If you need a third one, that's absolutely fine. So obviously depend on how large these lemons are. So there we go. There is our 150 ml, not 260 ml of lemon juice. So we're going to whisk that all up very nicely now. Just watching you don't splash everywhere. Breaking down those eggs. If you want to break down the eggs before, you can do, but you just want to give this a nice little whisk up until it's all incorporated. So there we go, absolutely fantastic. So that's mixed together, and as you can see, the froth is already starting to form. So we want to let this rest for about 1 hour to 2 hours in the fridge. Just let it rest, and it'll bring up all the sediment there, so we can skim it off with a ladle, so we can have a nice beautiful tart at the end. Now before we do anything else, before we start making that pastry, let's start buttering up that tin as well. So just butter and flour, and very lightly on the flour, so just making sure we're getting all those nooks and crannies with the tart tin. And then just a cheeky touch of flour in there as well, making sure you get all the way around the inside. And then just to get the excess out, just give it a quick little tap, and it should be nice and clear to go. So there we go, amigos. So it's now time for that beautiful sweet pastry. So we're going to need 150 grams of plain sieved flour. Also, we want about 50 grams of powdered sugar or icing sugar as well. 2 pinches of salt with a little cheeky bit of Salt Bae action. And in addition, we're going to need 75 grams of unsalted butter. Now the reason why I'm dicing it up is so it can incorporate it, and we can rub the butter into the flour and the dry mix. So once they're diced up in cubes, just drop them in. So you want about 75 grams. So the butter's in, let's get our hands in there, and we want to start rubbing this butter straight into the flour until it's nicely incorporated, and then we're going to start adding 1 egg yolk and just a little touch of milk just to help bind it together. So after about 5 minutes staring around the house contemplating what you're going to have for dinner, this should be nicely incorporated into the flour. So keep the whites, so we're going to need them later on for that cheeky meringue. So in goes the 1 yolk, fantastic, and also add about a tablespoon of milk to start you off. So give that a nice little mix. If you need to add a little touch more milk, you can do, but don't go too crazy with it. You do want a sloshy mix. So that should be nicely bound together. Fantastic. So that should be nice and bound together now. And the great thing with this, you can roll it straight away. You don't need to rest it, as we didn't cream the butter. So it's still nice and firm, so it's easy to roll. So just a quick little cheeky dusting of flour underneath. Don't go too manic with it. Oh, not in the face. Right, so what we're going to do, give this a nice little roll. And if you need a little bit more flour, minus in the mouth, just add a little touch more if it's starting to stick. Also, just give the rolling pin a little bit of a dust with the flour, and you should find it a little bit more easier. So we're just going to turn roll it until we get the nice size ready for our tin. So we've got a nice round size here, bigger than the tin. So what we're going to do, just very carefully grab the pastry and roll it up. Don't press down on it, super, super important. Otherwise it's going to stick together. You're going to have a right nightmare on your hands. So we'll grab the tin, and what we're going to do, hold the inside. If you hold the wheel, it's just going to spin off. So holding the inside, and then just gently rolling it off on top of the tin. And then just lifting up the sides very carefully and tucking them in into all those little nooks and crannies or air spaces, making sure it's all nice and tight inside that tin. Also, if you've got any pastry left over, which you probably will have, you can also make like a little mini tart, or if you want to roll it out, bake it off, and you could blend it, make a nice little biscuit crumb to go with your tart. So, you know, whichever you prefer, you can do something with it. So we're just going to very carefully just trim the edges using a knife, just to kind of take off the excess. And as I said, if you want to use something for the extras, you can do. So there's our beautiful tart, and we're going to poke a few little cheeky holes. Unless you want to do the old-fashioned way with the parchment and the bacon beans, that's absolutely fine, whichever you prefer. If you do it this way, make sure you seal the holes about 2 or 3 times with the egg wash going in and out the oven. So super important. You make sure you seal those holes up, otherwise you might have a few little cheeky leaks. And I'm not talking about those vegetable leaks either. So this is going to go into the freezer just for about 5 minutes. What? The freezer? Yeah, so we're going to firm it up for about 5 minutes or so, and then it's going to go straight into the oven. So the 5 minutes are up, the tart's out the freezer. I'm going to pop this onto a tray just in case there's any leaks from the butter from the lining. So this is going to go into the oven for about 5 or 10 minutes. So while we're waiting, let's grab our cheeky egg, give that a little whisk up, ready for our egg wash to seal up those cheeky holes in the tart. So while we're waiting, you can whisk up the 1 egg. So you want to cook this without any colour, or barely any, and then what you want to do is just egg wash those little cheeky holes in there. And you might need to do this about 2 or 3 times, in the oven, out the oven, in the oven, out the oven. So make sure those are filled properly, otherwise you're going to have a leak on your hands. So let's pop this back in the oven, give that a nice little seal for about 1 minute. So there's the tart. Ooh, watch the fingers, very hot. So that's looking beautiful. And what we want to do is turn the oven down. So open the door. We want to turn it down to 250 Fahrenheit or 120 Celsius if you've got a fan assisted. If you haven't got a fan assisted, 265 Fahrenheit or 130 Celsius. So it's super important. We're going to actually skim the top of this now. As you can see, there's quite a lot of bubbles there. So we want to get that out. So what we're going to do is just very gently skim round. Not picking up the liquid itself, but just actually the froth on the top. If you don't remove this, then you'll have a weird glaze on the top of your tart, so making sure we get rid of it. You can see it's quite thick, so we'll skim that very nicely. So the oven temperature has finally dropped, so we're going to very carefully pour this in while the tart is in the oven, and then gently close it. So the tart is in, and you want to set the timer for about 1 hour. You've got to be super patient for this, guys and gals. Chat, I know it's YouTube. It's supposed to be super quick, but you got to wait for this tart. You got to be super patient. So sit back, get a coffee. Won't be too long. So here it is, amigos. That beautiful lemon tart. And then all you're looking for is, can you see in the middle there? That little cheeky wobble going on. Perfect. Doesn't need cooking any further. So what we're going to do, we're not going to leave it out in the air. What we're going to do is turn the oven off. And what we're going to do is just put that back in with the door slightly open, and it'll just kind of cool down very gently. Now, the reason why we want to do this, super important to do it this way and not out in the cool air, is because potentially if you let it cool down too quickly, the lemon tart will actually crack. So we're going to let it cool down very gently in the oven. It's off with the door slightly open. That should take about half an hour. Right, so as that cheeky tart is cooling down, what we're going to do is make the meringue. So super easy, quick way to make it. So we got ourselves some very delicious egg whites here. So we've got about 102 grams of egg whites, and we want about 255 grams of caster sugar or fine granulated sugar. So we're going to pop that straight in. So we're going to give this a little bit of a whisk up, and also we're going to get a little bain-marie on, or what's a bain-marie, chef? So basically a little pan with some simmering water in it, and then we're going to put the bowl over the top, and we're going to whisk it nice and gently. So we want to whisk this to a point where the liquid is nice and smooth, and you can't feel any more granules into the egg whites. So we got our simmering water. We're just going to pop our egg whites on there, and we're just going to do this for about between 10 to 20 minutes, just until the sugar has actually dissolved and you can't feel it anymore, as I said before. So a little bit of patience, and we'll just give this a nice little cheeky whisk round. So we don't want to whisk it up too hard. We don't want to make the meringue right this second, but we're just giving it a little whisk here and there. Don't go too crazy with it, but just give it a continuous gentle whisk here and there, making sure we're just waiting for the sugar to actually dissolve, and then we can beat it up on the KitchenAid to cool it down and then whisk it up into that meringue. That's turning out perfect. It's all nice and smooth, and the sugar has actually dissolved. So we're going to take this off now. So we're going to put this onto a medium speed and then whip it until peak, and obviously has cooled down as well. So we just turn this up to a high speed. Now we're just going to let this whip for a little bit longer, just until it's peaked, and we're going to let it slightly cool down as well. Beautiful. So as you can see, the meringue is whipped to the peak, so that's good to go. So I put the meringue into 3 separate bags with 3 different piping nozzles. Now if you want to do this, just cover the whole lot and do it in one bag, that's absolutely fine. But I'm going to play around with the lemon pie today. So we got that beautiful tart out now. It's cooled down. So what we're going to do is pipe that beautiful meringue and have a little play around with it. And there we go. There's our beautiful meringue pie. Now, the only thing we need to do is just give this a very light blowtorch. So be super careful when you're doing this, so careful you don't burn it or over torch it. And there it is, amigos. That delicious lemon meringue pie. And now if you want to cover the whole thing like traditionally, that's fine. I just thought I'd show you something a little different for today. But be careful with that blowtorch as well. It can burn the meringue very quickly, so you have to go in and out very, very quick. So when life brings you lemons, you make lemonade. Oh wait, lemon meringue pie. Definitely. So I couldn't leave the video without cutting a little cheeky piece of the lemon meringue. So let's cut into this little bad boy very gently and carefully. So using a little bit leftover of meringue. And why not? Just give it a little cheeky torch. Careful you don't burn it. And there it is. That beautiful lemon tart just set. So there you go, amigos. So if you want to plate it up a little bit, there is that beautiful lemon tart. And then just to give you a little bit of a cross section, that beautiful lemon custard that's just about set, thinly lined, crispy, beautiful pastry. Fantastic. Super happy with that. I hope you are too, amigos. So thank you so much for watching this week's episode. Feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to catch me live on Tuesday to Friday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, we're making some very delightful, delicious dishes during the week. So if you want to catch me on Twitch, my link is below in the description box. But until next week, stay cheeky, amigos.